Hello, my name is Amy Lightfoot. I'm from British Council India, and I'm here in Delhi at the 11th Language and Development Conference. I'm here now with Kirk R, who's one of our featured speakers. Kirk is originally from the US, but has been living in Thailand for the last 28 years. He's now based in Bangkok, working for SIL, and is also one of the members of the working group on multilingual education with UNESCO. I just attended your session, Kirk. It was really interesting and insightful, very, very interesting one. We'll be putting a link to the session with the text alongside this video, so please take a look. And I wondered if you could summarize for our audience now what your session focused on.
Sure, Amy. Well, basically, I looked at the past 10 to 15 years in Southeast Asia and how a series of pilot projects which utilize the mother tongue, then linking to other languages, what we call mother tongue-based multilingual education. Basically how those pilot projects evolved to the state where they were able to influence national policies. They were very supportive of ethnic minority languages.
I think it was particularly interesting, your session, because I think as one of the audience commented at the end, there has been some discussion during the conference about lots of talk about the problems and the issues that have come up, and some research which is showing particular things, some of it negative, some of it positive, but perhaps a feeling that maybe it wasn't clear to some people how that was impacting on policy. And I think your session really showed how pilot projects can indeed go on to have a much bigger impact, and I think that's very positive. I also wanted to ask you, thinking about multilingual education, what would you say, from your experience, are the key features of successful multilingual education, or mother tongue-based multilingual education? It's quite a mouthful saying that, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think probably the main message is cooperation among a variety of stakeholders. The most successful projects we've seen have had good grassroots support, but often support as well from academics, university professors in the country, local government officials, and often international organizations, whether they be UN organizations or other international NGOs, and some domestic NGOs as well. And this whole thing of advocacy is really key to that, because all these stakeholders need to buy into it, and especially the parents, because in some ways, MLE sounds counterintuitive to minority peoples. They have the view that their language is of little worth, and that the children need to learn a different language, the national language, English, or whatever, in order to be successful in life. But what you need to demonstrate to the parents, and often to the policymakers and teachers and others, is that the best way to get to that goal of fluency in the national language and having the qualifications to go on to university and so forth is often through the mother tongue.
Right.
The mother tongue is not an obstacle to acquiring these other languages. It can be a valuable resource towards that end.
Like a vehicle, basically, towards that fluency. Also, another question that has come up during the conference, which I wanted to get your views on, was how far you think language is considered in the general discourse around development. We've talked about it a lot in the context of school systems and education in that context. But I wondered what your thoughts are about language policy, which is more broadly applied across sectors.
Yes, I think it's gradually being acknowledged in other areas. It's definitely been an upward fight, but some good progress has been seen, like related to health issues, like with HIV/AIDS. Many governments and UN agencies began to realize that the message was not getting to people when they were only using certain languages. And so, at least in Thailand, we've seen radio programs, publications, and in some hospitals, allocation for interpreters that wasn't there before as a result of an acknowledgement that this is a key factor. And so it's growing, and I hope now with the new Sustainable Development Goals adopted by the UN General Assembly, those of us involved in mother tongue work really need to continue making the case that in order for these goals to be achieved, often minority languages, non-dominant languages, need to be the vehicle to carry development information to people.
And also, I think, just going back to what you were saying before about the role of the international agencies in ensuring that this happens, I would expect that those SDGs and the government signing up to those will, I don't know if circumvent is the right word, but changes in the political situation within a country may have less impact on the policies that have been put in place as a result of the international agreements. Do you think that's true, or do you think they don't necessarily carry much more weight than?
I really hope they'll be the case. We'll have to see some countries, like with the Millennium Development Goals, some countries were very sensitive to showing that they are making progress and very aggressive in making progress. Others weren't quite as interested. But we really hope that the new indicators for the SDGs will be widely disseminated. I know in a few weeks, for example, next week actually, UNESCO Bangkok will be holding a large meeting for high-level Ministry of Education staff from about 40 countries to discuss this SDGs, what they mean for you, and how to develop the capacity to gather these statistics.
Great. And you also, during your talk, you mentioned two other things that I just thought would be good to highlight here for people watching this interview. The first one is around a conference that you mentioned is happening in October next year. Do you want to just say a little bit about that?
Yes, well, the UNESCO Multilingual Education Working Group has hosted 4 conferences in the past in Bangkok, starting in 2003. The last one was 2013. The next one in 2016 will be in the later part of October, and we hope to focus on several main themes involving teacher training. How do you recruit ethnic minority teachers? How do you train them to be used in MLE? Also looking at early childhood development and the language piece of early childhood education, which is, again, a very big issue that's emerged in the last 2 or 3 years. And also looking at this general idea of policies and how to encourage policymakers, how to be an advocate for MLE in the different situations. So.
Okay, great. And is there a website that people can go to get more information about the conference? Because we can put a link with the video.
Yes, well, people could Google UNESCO Bangkok Multilingual Education, and that website really has a wealth of resources. There are about a dozen ebooks that you can download on various topics related to MLE. Some of those are in English. Many have been translated into other languages, and we'd like to translate them into more languages. So if you find a resource you feel is helpful and you'd like to help translate it into your language, we'd be very excited about working with you on that. In addition, we have a newsletter that comes out quarterly that tries to give highlights of MLE news from around the globe, which I think is very encouraging because often people working with minority groups feel isolated. So it's refreshing for them to know there are others throughout the world who are dealing with similar issues, similar challenges, but also experiencing successes.
Yeah, excellent. So we'll put a link to that website with the text accompanying the video as well, so you can click on that and go and have a look at all those resources. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kirk, for sparing the time to come and talk to me. And thank you very much for watching, and we'll be back soon with more interviews. Thank you.